Hello again. Sorry it cut off right as I was trying to explain the average column there. But what I'm going to do in this recording, instead of explaining the functions, I'm going to be applying the functions. So what I'd recommend is you follow along with me so you can get comfortable with using these functions yourself. Watch what I'm doing and apply it to the same document and track that your document looks similar to mine. Okay, so where were we? We were looking at making average columns because in this one, at the bottom here, I have some average columns, which are the averages of the of dot point one, dot point two, dot point three, 4, and the total mark. So though that's these here, though it's still not as pretty as it could be, we're going to work with what we've got. So, as I explained before, equals bracket, and for this one, I'm just going to drag down all the way down to here. I'm going to close the bracket, and interesting, it's an error. If you believe me, there was something I missed out. I wonder if you did it. It's average. There you go. So the average of everything for dot point one is 2.6. Now I'm going to do this one, and voila, there's no information in this column, so it comes up with a error basically, and I just press delete there to delete that column because these are the ones that we're looking for. I'm going to make them stand out a little bit. I'll make them bold. Another thing that I can look to do here is I'm going to change the font to something that's a bit more me. I'm a bit more of a Times New Roman person, so that's me. If your calling is something else, maybe your calling is, I don't know, Snap ITC. Maybe that's your calling, but up to you. Alright, so that's starting to look a bit better, but we've still got some weirdness here. What I want to do is I want to have an all submitted selection here. So now I'm going to introduce you to sorting. So what I'm doing is I'm highlighting all of the data, which includes these side columns, which are just my notes. And this function here, sort and filter, I'm going to, let's say, sort Z to A, because it's sorted A to Z. So now it's going to give me in the order of this column. So 9, and then 8, 5, 8, 4, 8, 3. So it's doing it like a strange decimal system here, but it's sorting it by this column right here. What I want to do is I want to sort it by marks, but if I try to highlight it like this, it's going to now sort this column because that's where that where that white cell is. So to do that, you have to use the keyboard for this one. So tab moves that highlighted cell horizontally, and enter moves it vertically. So enter alone goes down, shift enter goes up, and shift tab goes sideways. So I'm going to now sort by the mark column, and let's just say largest to smallest. So now we have a big block of data that actually is meaningful here. And then we have another block, really, 2 blocks of data that isn't meaningful. Maybe we can clean it up even more if we sort by, let's say, dot point 4. Is that going to clean up a bit more of it? So again, we'll do largest to smallest. And there we go, that's a little bit neater. And that's another thing that you should be thinking about with data. If you don't do it the first time, have a play around, have a wander, and see if you can make it work somehow. So now I have non-submitters. These are the students that need to be followed up with maybe a phone call home and an N warning letter. And all of this is meaningful data that we can process. So I'm highlighting all, Control C, and then Control V. And that's that there. So again, I'm going to type in the averages, and I'm going to do the average of D2 to D63. Should be that. And then I'm going to drag them along, just as I did before, put it in bold, and out. So these numbers as well, these you can apply a different conditional formatting, and maybe let's do, this is the same one that I did on the last sheet. So for continuity's sake, I'm going to do that one. Wow, you can see this one's an absolute outlier of a student that submitted late, so they did, their final mark is a 0, but I can see in this part that they would have gotten a 21, which puts them kind of right around this place anyway. Excellent. Non-submitters, what I did in this sheet is I sorted by class, okay? And I also added some space just to make it clear. Maybe we could even do what I've done in this one, just to save some time. So I'm highlighting all of this, and I'm going to move back to here. Sort A to Z. And now we know which classes require, which students from which class require follow-up. Cool. And I might also add, if you really don't feel like using the mouse or touchpad as I am now, you can hold Shift and use the arrow keys and highlight the cells in that way. Maybe the green will look a bit different. There you go. That's starting to make sense. Now this one, comparing assessment task 1 and assessment task 2, this is another play around with what I've done here is, as they're already, I created this one before it was put on Central, but Central thankfully has already converted it to a percentage, so these are comparable. What I did then is I made an average and standard deviation. This is already done on Central, so Central does this automatically, but if you know those processes yourself, you'll understand more of what they mean when they're presented to you on another piece of software like Central that does them automatically. If you really know what it's trying to express, you will understand the data better. So in this one, I'm going to be even more clear. So average, and down I'll do the standard deviation. Sure, I'll just write it, abbreviate it to be standard deviation. So equals average of, and this is D2 to D85. Okay, so what I've done here is I've added an extra bracket, strangely. Does it want to correct it for me? Sure. Yeah, standard dev of D2 to D86, which is the same as that last bit. Cool. And I'll do the same thing. I'm just going to drag it instead of writing it out. Okay, now this is strange. I see there's a major drop in the average here. So what I'll do to tidy up this data is I'm going to sort each of these, and I'm going to take out the zeros because they really represent outliers. So let's do smallest to largest just to change things up. Now I'm going to highlight all of these. Now I'm going to keep them highlighted and scroll down, and I'm going to watch the average. I'm pressing delete, and the average is going to change drastically. So the average has gone way up because we're really interested in the average of students who have completed the task. It's worthwhile to look at the number of students that weren't able to complete the task, but Oh, oh, that wasn't right. But in terms of talking about the task itself, I think it's more valuable to look at of the students who completed the task. It's really not liking what I'm doing here. Thank you. So now I'm just going to remove the couple of outliers in that first task. And there you go. They look much closer. So the average mark was still that kind of mid C. And the spread, the standard deviation, is close to a whole grade there. So in this second task, the spread is basically a full grade, and this one is close to a full grade. So I would say these are very comparable tasks, though as you can see, these student IDs, students themselves show a lot of variance in the marks that they've achieved. But I've played around with that. Now, in this case, I really think you may as well just delete these two. So I'm just going to delete this one to tidy it up even more. And we're not looking at individual marks here. We're trying to look at the overall thing. So this can just be deleted, cleaning up. We're up to 10 minutes. Cool. This one as well. Doesn't make sense to have that much blank space. Class, delete. It's looking much tidier. We have these blank spaces. I'd rather them be at the bottom, but if you've been following along, I'm sure you would know how to do that. If you don't, have a play around. Here, this could look a little bit tidier. So what I might do is I might just make the names as I did in the final document I sent out before. I'm just going to make the names all a bit grey, just to show that they're of like a similar set and that we're not going to analyze them in any really meaningful way. That's just in case you want to go back to look at who the outliers were. And I think I also did the classes in a slightly different color. Yeah, just for the sake of filling it out and making it look cohesive and a bit more alive. And that's done there. And as I said, you can continue to edit this and make it look as nice as you want. The more kind of time you spend on it, the more visually appealing it'll be. The more customized it'll be to your taste. And that's really what this is about. It's about playing around with the numbers, using these basic functions, which can carry you basically the whole way for using, for analyzing data in this basic way. Don't be afraid of using spreadsheets and data processing tools. Have a play around. You're not going to break anything, especially. This isn't like Scout or those other sites where if you make a wrong formula, you might stuff up the data. Here, this is an absolute playground. Enjoy it, have a great time, and I hope you learned a couple of things here. All right, well, thanks for that. I'm going to end the recording here. So, bye, have a good one. All feedback will be appreciated, of course. See you.